Hi, my name's Dr. Catherine Hughes from Crime Psych. I'm a criminal psychologist and I run a business that enables me to bring knowledge and learning to everyone, not just those who are at universities or colleges. And I do this by producing a range of blogs and vlogs like this one and free online courses. I also run some slightly more in-depth courses, both online and face-to-face. You don't need any previous qualifications to learn with me, and there are several subjects available. So once you finish this video, head on over to my website and see if you can make it to an event or learn online in your own time. Have you ever wondered why victims of domestic abuse don't just leave? In this video, I'm going to be discussing some of the reasons that might be. However, before I go on to talk about that, it's important to have an understanding of the different types of abuse. When I'm talking about domestic abuse, I'm not just talking about physical violence. Abuse can also be financial, emotional, psychological. It can happen to anyone, regardless of your gender, your sexuality, your ethnicity, or your age. It might be a husband or boyfriend abusing their wife or girlfriend. It might be a wife or girlfriend who is the abuser. In some cases, it can also be the offspring who are the abusers. In 2015, it became an offence to be coercive and manipulating within a relationship. When I've talked to people in the past about domestic abuse, the conversation normally includes me pointing out that abuse can be emotional. Almost everyone I've spoken to agrees with me. However, some people have said that psychological abuse is worse. People tell me that you can heal a broken bone or a bruise, but psychological abuse takes a long time to heal. While psychological abuse does take a long time to recover from, those who are experiencing physical abuse will sometimes also be psychologically abused and manipulated. If you're experiencing domestic abuse of any kind, I'm not here to tell you that you must leave the relationship immediately. The reason I say this is because I've been in abusive relationships. If somebody had approached me and said, "He's abusing you, you should leave," I would have defended him to the hilt. I didn't admit to anyone, including myself, that I was experiencing domestic abuse. Domestic abuse can be evident in a number of different ways. They can be excessively jealous and possessive. Domestic abuse could be a person who's charming and loving 1 minute and verbally abusive the next. They might isolate you slowly and steer you away from family or friends. They may constantly criticise you and put you down, or even embarrass you in front of friends and family. They may tell you that you're useless and couldn't cope without them, or they control your finances. They may tell you what to wear, who to see, where to go, what to think. They might threaten, intimidate or hit you, smash furniture up, frighten you into complying with the demands. They might monitor your movements or check up on you via email, Facebook, Twitter, or by looking at your text messages on your phone. The list could go on and on, but the point is, domestic abuse can take many forms. Moving on to some of the reasons that victims of domestic abuse don't just leave is because the reasons can be just as vast as the forms of domestic abuse. I've intentionally left out any language about gender here because men can be victims of domestic abuse too. People in same-sex relationship can be abused, as can those in opposite-sex relationships. Domestic abuse isn't linked to age either. Young people can be abused, as can older people. When it's a viable option, it's best for victims to do what they can to escape their abusers. However, this isn't the case in all situations. Abusers repeatedly go to extremes to prevent their victim from leaving. Leaving is often the most dangerous time for a victim of abuse, because abuse is all about power and control. When a victim leaves, they're taking control and threatening the abusive partner's power, which could cause that abusive partner to retaliate in extremely destructive ways. One study found in interviews with men who've killed their wives that either threats of separation by their partner or actual separations were the most often used trigger that led to the murder. The victims' reasons for staying with their abusers are extremely complex and wide-ranging. Victims of abuse might fear that their abusers will follow through on threats that they've made to hurt or kill them, or even to hurt or kill children. They might harm or kill their pets or other people or other members of the family. And again, that list goes on and on. The victim in a violent relationship knows their abuser quite well. They fully understand the extent to which they will go to make sure that they have and can continue to maintain power and control over them. Sometimes the victim literally might not be able to safely escape or protect those that they love. A recent study of intimate partner homicides in the USA found that 20% of homicide victims were not the domestic violence victims themselves, but family members, friends, neighbours, people who intervened, police, or in some cases even bystanders. The reasons that a victim doesn't leave an abusive relationship can be broadly defined into personal and social factors. Personal factors might be reasons such as the victim may be afraid of what will happen if they decide to leave that relationship. They may not know what a healthy relationship looks like, perhaps because they've grown up in an environment where abuse was common, and they might not recognise that their relationship is unhealthy and abusive. This is especially true of controlling and coercive abuse. The abuser spends a long time convincing the victim that they simply can't cope without them, that they need them for various reasons. The abusers spend months, sometimes years, breaking down their victims' confidence in themselves. They do this so slowly and subtly that victims might not even realise that it's happening. It's often difficult for someone to admit that they've been abused. They may feel they've done something wrong by becoming involved with an abusive partner. They might also worry that their friends and family will judge them. Very often, the victim will feel love towards their abusive partner. They may have children with them and may want to maintain their family. Abusive people can often be charming, especially at the beginning of a relationship, and the victim might hope that their partner will go back to being that person. They may only want the violence to stop, not for the relationship to end entirely. The victim might feel that the relationship is a mix of good times, love and hope, along with the manipulation, intimidation and fear. When a couple have children together, they might fear losing custody. They might even feel that two-parent households are better than single-parent households. When the abuser is physically violent, the victim might fear that they might kill or hurt the children. Victims may not have anywhere to go or not know how to access support. When it comes to social factors that influence a victim to stay, it could be because their abusers can sometimes go to great lengths to make sure that they're liked by their partner's family and their friends. This may make victims fear that they won't be believed if they speak out about the abuse. The victim might fear that the police won't take them seriously or believe them, especially when it's, as it often is, one word against another. Sometimes victims of abuse are arrested and charged by law enforcement, even if they're only defending themselves against the batterer. There can be a reluctance by prosecutors to prosecute some cases. Some prosecutors may convince an abuser to plead guilty to a lesser charge. Additionally, judges rarely impose the maximum sentence upon convicted abusers. Probation or a fine is very common in these cases. Even if it is all taken seriously and believed, and a restraining order is issued, that doesn't guarantee that the abuser won't return and harm the victim. Some victims might believe traditional stereotypes. They might believe that they're responsible for making their relationship work. To some, failure to maintain relationship equals failure as a person. The victim may also believe that their abuser's behaviour is caused by stress, alcohol, problems at work, unemployment, or numerous other factors. Furthermore, culture or religion might influence some people to stay in their abusive relationships rather than end that relationship for fear of bringing shame upon their family. The abuse might not always be consistent. During non-violent or non-abusive times, a couple might have a seemingly perfect relationship. The abuser might be so charming and loving and lead the victim to believe that they're basically good and it was just a mistake that happened once or twice. Almost everyone who's hit their partner will break down afterwards, crying, saying how much they regret what they've done and that promising that they'll never do it again. It usually does though. I'm sure that there are many more reasons that a person doesn't leave an abusive relationship that I haven't covered here today. Every relationship is different and the abuse can take so many different forms. There are things that friends, families and loved ones can do to help someone who they think might be being abused, and we should all be alert to the signs of abuse. If somebody is being physically abused, they'll frequently have bruises and bangs on their body. But victims can be very good at covering these things up. When the signs of physical abuse are evident, people might give inconsistent explanations for them. They may wear glasses indoors or long sleeve tops and jumpers in hot weather or wear makeup on them. Domestic abuse can cause people to believe that they'll never escape the control of the abuser. They'll often fear the consequences of leaving their partner. They may also be in a constant state of alertness and unable to ever fully relax. Fear is one of the most important components for the abuser. They'll cause the other person to be timid, fearful and nervous. A person experiencing domestic abuse may not say outright that they're being controlled or abused, but they might refer to their partners as bad-tempered or moody. Victims will also behave in ways that show that they're overly anxious to please people. Another key component of domestic abuse is control. The abuser controls and manipulates their partner in all areas of their life. They'll refer to their partner as jealous. If you notice that a person asks for permission to go out and socialise or doesn't have access to money, then that's a sign that they may be or are being controlled. Abusive partners will also constantly check up on their partner while they're out via phone calls or via text messages. If you think that someone is being abused, approach the subject with caution. Ask questions. Show that you're willing to help and support them. Get websites and phone numbers where they can get support or information. But remember that the abused person isn't going to leave the relationship on your say-so. They have to make that decision on their own. I became very skilled at defending my abuser, or I even agreed with other people when they pointed it out and made a joke of it. As I said at the beginning, leaving an abusive relationship can be the most dangerous time for a victim. Depending on the form of the abuse, advice needs to be adaptable, considerate, but most of all, safe. I've included some websites in the video description below, and they contain advice and support. I sincerely hope that if you are in this position, you're able to leave safely. For those of you that have never been in this situation, please try not to judge that person for not leaving an abusive relationship. There are many, many reasons why it may not be possible or safe. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I do hope that you've learned something from it. Bye for now.